Hello
And welcome back,
To read the room.
a Culture Club.
a podcast by
Alexis.
Kaylin.
And Larson.
Today, our episode is a deep dive into media and personal habit tracking apps. Feels like these days more and more digital users are documenting their lives online and tracking things, and like not just like fitness, but there's been a real rise recently in using tracking apps to look at what media you're consuming, the
Mm-hmm.
books, the movies, through apps like Letterboxd and Storygraph, and then your classic fitness apps like Strava, which I feel like we just wanted to talk about the good sides, the bad sides, the complicated, we're not sure sides of how transforming what are usually solitary hobbies into social experiences can do, and how we're currently in a real era of self surveillance.
Yeah, and I think that we'll probably talk about this later on too, but it is a way to kind of slow down what you're consuming, which I think is part of the goal for some people.
I think it's also a way to speed it up. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of the criticism I see is that, it's,
You want to hit your goals.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, which I think you might fall victim to a little bit.
I may.
Is there like a self optimization side
Yes,
to it,
yeah, a
or
little bit of grind, girl. Yeah.
yeah, but even like just a competitiveness,
Mm-hmm,
right? Like,
mm-hmm.
and how much can it be like, ooh, I like a challenge because that motivates me, then slip into, ooh, I need to do better.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope, but thought we'd just start by defining exactly kind of what we mean in this episode by a media tracking app. Because really all the apps are tracking us. But we don't mean the data collection that's just kind of happening in the background. We're specifically going to talk today about self tracking apps, which
Mm-hmm.
is where we volunteer information and data about ourselves, our habits, and our behaviors. Walk with me, if you
I
will,
will
for a
walk with
second.
you.
Thank you. Go.
Can you paint me a picture?
Yes. I always tell my students, let's go to Imagination
Yeah.
Station. So go to Imagination Station. You wake up, okay? You go for your usual morning run. When you leave the house, you press start on your Apple Watch, and when you get back, you just end the run. You're super thirsty, so you chug 8 ounces of water and you log that for your daily water goal. Go to work. At lunch, you got a few minutes. You need to keep your Duolingo
Mhm.
streak alive. Okay, you're on like day 501. You're not going to let all that progress slip away. So you make sure to go do your lessons. Get home for dinner, not sure what to make. You scroll like the rest of us on Pinterest and you pin a recipe that you know that you want to try out. When you go to bed at night, you do your usual reading and you finish your book. So you got to rate it in the moment before you go to sleep, or else you're going to lose the thoughts that you just had. Before you know it, you have probably self tracked 5 or 6 things in one day with just a couple button clicks.
Mhm. And as you're saying that, I'm like thinking of all these other things that I've participated in as tracking, or that other people that have, or other people that I know do track throughout their day, or things that have been advertised to me to track more things throughout my day.
Yeah, the list is kind of endless,
Yeah.
right? Which is why we wanted to break it down. I do have a bit of, I was going to say fun history, fun fact. I don't know if it's fun. It's low key kind of evil.
Fun and that's good to know, but I wish it wasn't that way.
Yeah, fun in that kind of way. But when I was like looking into tracking and why we as people have such a psychological desire to track information, I stumbled into a brief history of the tracking craze. And a lot of people apparently link the tracking craze of like the modern day with scales, and it kind of starting with weighing yourself and wanting to get on the scale and record that number. Like, initially, scales were pretty expensive, so most people did not have one in their home, but there were public scales. And so people would have to, write down what they weighed after using the public scale and keep a kind of manual log.
Mhm.
Apparently, those public scales were collecting the weight data, and that is what the creation of BMI is based on, the utter evil that is the
Yeah.
BMI
It
matrix.
honestly seems crazy that they had the ability to track, like, to maintain that data,
Yeah.
right?
It's absolutely
Were they
bananas.
getting people's height in the moment too, or they're just like, that person looks about 5'8"?
I don't
Well,
know. I
some
don't know
of
if
them
this.
have a height measurement
Right.
attached to the scale. So these might it might be built in, and that was a part of you do your height and your weight. Like, that might be how you were able to log your weight. I don't know
Yeah.
how this thing works.
Step right up, step right up.
Yeah.
But
This makes me think
yeah.
of Marvelous Miss Maisel in the very, I
Mm.
think it's the first episode.
And she's
She's
measuring everything.
Yes, and her friend Imogen is logging it in this diary that she has for
Mhm.
this, and she is referencing her thigh size from like high school in this conversation with the friend, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, like, I don't know how you've been able to maintain like the same thigh size." Like, it's just the sickness of that is insane.
My
And that's a
gosh.
conversation for another
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously people at that time were metric obsessed,
Yes.
in different and yet all the same
Yeah.
ways.
But you're not tracking that data for
Yeah.
other people. I mean,
Right.
other than your friend Imogen, who's helping you, right? Your friend who lives in LA isn't gonna know what it is because you're tracking
Yeah.
that for yourself.
Yeah, as we'll see, like the internet really changes things. But where things kind of take off from the scale of it all is in the 80s and the 90s, we get the introduction of the pedometer. That was a big deal. That was a big
Hmm.
deal. And so at that time, people began tracking kind of like various aspects of their lives. At the very least, you could be tracking the steps you were taking, and we were
Hmm.
getting these kind of metrics and these challenges. I remember you could get pedometers in like Happy Meals.
Yes, I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Eventually,
such a wild
I
concept.
know.
Chicken McNuggets and a pedometer.
Yeah. Now get walking.
Yeah.
Eventually, that little seed that tugs at the brain that gives you dopamine when you get more steps today than yesterday evolves with the introduction of smart technology. Once smartphones come out and you have all these different applications, there's just a massive explosion in self-tracking and the societal use of the resulting data. And that kind of leads us to where we are today. And
Mhm.
we had some specific realms that we wanted to dive into.
One area of personal media tracking that I personally am a fan of, or a
Participate a
partic
lot in.
yeah, is tracking my reading. There are a number of apps out there, and it seems like every day there's a new one popping
Mhm.
up because there's just something not quite right, or people want something different.
Mhm.
Um, but the ones that I use and I feel like are pretty popular are Storygraph, Fable, and Pagebound. And now like these all offer slightly different perks, I guess you
Mhm.
could say. Storygraph came out as a alternative to Goodreads, which is one that has been around for a long time. Most of us have probably seen it, maybe
Mhm.
used it. It's owned by Amazon. So a lot of readers are kind of iffy about participating in the Goodreads tracking.
Yeah.
So Storygraph was born. It was created by a female entrepreneur,
Mhm.
pretty much a one woman team. But anyway, Storygraph steps away from Amazon
Mhm.
and reformulated how people might track their reading, track what books they might want to read, engage with that material, how you rate it, and more recently has included the social aspect because at
Mhm.
first it was kind of just this is a reading tracker and the concern was that Goodreads has a social interaction aspect and Storygraph didn't.
Mhm.
So from that
Problem?
from that failing
Yeah.
in the moment, Fable came around and that was yeah, this is a reading tracker, track, every day you read what you're reading, but it was more about the social media
Mhm.
aspect. It's essentially like an Instagram for reading.
Yeah. Well, and like they give, I think, a monthly wrap,
Mhm.
right? So it's a lot more like made to post on
Yeah.
your social media.
Yeah. And then a newer one is Pagebound, which kind of takes the social aspect a little bit further and less in terms of social media, but more in terms of like actually interacting with different readers and users, while maintaining the tracking and the challenges that Storygraph offers.
Mhm.
These are these are apps that are free but
Mhm.
have paid versions as
Yes.
well. Storygraph, you can pay for it and you're supporting, the small team. You also get a couple
Extra
cool
perks.
extra things. Um as far as I know, Pagebound is free, but there could be a membership. And Fable does have like a premium membership. I have no idea what you get offered through that. A new one that I've recently been trying, it's in beta testing right now, is Shelf Control.
Mm,
And it came about for tracking people's ARC, which are advanced reader copies,
okay.
but you can use it for any reading.
Yeah.
It's try to give you a timeline when your next book might be due, when you need to finish it by, give a
Okay.
review,
Okay.
but you can use it for any reading. Um, at this point, it doesn't really seem like there's a huge social aspect of it, but it's another way to track and almost like have a timeline of your reads,
Hmm.
tracking in the future more so than even just tracking like day to day.
Yeah. So like if you had a podcast that you were reading a bunch of things for, that might help you track when and what you need to read when.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
um,
Sounds nice.
yeah.
We might utilize that service.
And then another app that I used to use, I don't think it's like quite as popular, was called Bookmori.
I don't think I've heard of
And
that one.
yeah, it's very much not social. This is
Mhm.
like personal tracking only, but it offers the option to do timed reading sessions. So
Oh.
you're actively timing how much you're reading each day instead of just like, oh, after the fact, enter in maybe I read, whatever. Um, so there's a timed aspect of it, and then you can track what you want to read, your library, but it's
Mhm.
kind of more like day to day tracking, time you read if you want, no social aspect. So I personally was like, nah, I don't need this one. It's not offering what I want. I feel like those are the main tracking apps that a lot of people have been using.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I use, like I mentioned, I use Storygraph, PageRound, Fable, and now Shelf Control all together. I've created a little system. I also have my own like personal spreadsheets.
A reading ecosystem of sorts, a reading tracking ecosystem.
Ooh.
Yeah, I am a follower. I'm deep in the cult of reading trackers. um, but like I think for me personally, like it helped like expand my reading in terms of the challenges that some of these apps offer. I'm more likely to read a genre that I wouldn't look to,
Hmm.
an author from a country I've never read from. And I think that is a huge perk. It's widening people's worldview.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The downside is I do feel like I tend to overcommit myself to challenges because I love to read, and so I think, okay, I want to read this, I want to read this, I want to read this, and I have my whole year planned out, and it leaves no room for flexibility.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the year, if I allow myself to go off script, I panic a little bit, even
Yeah.
though I know it's self-created. I'm the one
Yeah.
who's putting this timeline on it.
There's nothing that's gonna happen
No,
if you don't do this.
and maybe I enjoy that that like
Anxiety?
yeah, I don't know, maybe I need a deadline. So I will say I think that it does in some cases add to that, like what we were saying, that grind culture, that
Yeah.
like not necessarily reading just for fun, but it's also kind of how you use it. You don't have to overcommit yourself. You can
Yeah.
just track what you want. Like I know, Kaylin, you don't
Yeah,
rate
I was gonna
books.
say the same thing. I very much enjoy using Storygraph. That's the only one I use for reading, and I have an issue with reading things. That's probably something I need to talk to my therapist about. But I enjoy because you just get to see what you've read, and there's so many times where I've like either just been like, what book was that?
Yeah.
Like you're just thinking about a theme or a topic, and I just scroll through my reads for that year. Or like also sometimes I feel like I don't realize how long ago I actually read something, and I feel
Yeah.
like it kind of helps put
Yeah,
your reading into perspective.
definitely.
And we've I think you probably actively did this a lot more than I have, but the buddy reads I think is a
Uh-huh.
really interesting tool or
Yeah, so
feature, I guess, out
yeah,
of Storygraph.
Storygraph has buddy reads where you and a friend or anyone else
Hmm.
who joined that buddy read for a specific book can be reading it at the same time and be making comments about the book at, certain
Hmm.
pages, certain percentages, and you're it's like a virtual book club,
Yeah,
and like a comment only gets released when you've got to that point of the
yeah.
book. It is fun. Like we have friends who live across the country who we enjoy reading with, and you can't always schedule a time to talk about it.
Hmm.
So that is an interesting feature.
Yeah, I wish they had that feature built into the book clubs. It
Yeah.
feels like a crazy thing to not have built into the book club,
Yeah,
but
you can set it up separately.
yeah.
And actually in the book club page,
Hmm.
whatever.
Yeah, there is like comments.
Well, no, each meeting you can say like, "Oh,
Oh,
this is," but we just haven't done that.
got it.
Um, but I think other than like just tracking what I'm actively reading and participating in challenges, I like it for the database
Hmm.
because I hear about so many books, and like obviously you're never going to be able to read every book you want to read, but having my TBR in one spot,
Hmm.
being able to tag things as a certain category or like remind me who gave that recommendation, I can always go back to that. I think my TBR probably has over 700 books on it right now. That
Oh
personally
gosh.
that personally does not give me anxiety at all. I know that gives some people anxiety. To me, that's just like, wow, there's so many
The
options. Yeah,
possibilities.
Yeah.
but I love the database of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Kaylin, you use Fable too for more than just like reading, right?
I have. I've used it a tiny bit for TV shows. I don't think I've logged any reading in Fable. But honestly, I don't like the platform for that.
Mm.
And I don't know if it's different for books or not. It feels like they're a lot more geared for the book experience than they are for
Mhm.
the TV show experience. But there's it's also hard to find data on Fable. I'm going to talk about Letterbox here in a little bit, and I was able to find like more demographic information, that kind of stuff. I don't know if Fable just has that shit locked down or what the deal is, but it was really hard to find anything about that.
It's
Um,
fairly newer. I don't know how old Letterboxd is, but Fable's like
I'll tell you
fairly
later.
new.
Yeah, so maybe that's part of it as well. There's just less historical data, and you can't use Fable on a desktop, which is
Yeah, that
frustrating.
that is annoying. With Storygraph, you can use on a
Hmm.
desktop. Pagebound, you can use on a desktop. As of right now, Shelf Control you cannot, and Fable you cannot. And I
Yeah,
think that a lot of these reading tracking apps that are like smaller, they are just designed as apps for the phone.
yeah, yeah. And something that I found not helpful as someone who doesn't really give numerical reviews, but it doesn't look like you can post a review out of like a certain amount of stars or anything like that. You can do a
Oh.
commentary, but you
Oh,
can't rate the show out of 5 out of
But
10.
how am I supposed to get my
interesting.
super satisfying Fable
Exactly.
That's
wrapped at
that's
the end of
so
the
weird because for the books on Fable, it's extensive what you can do.
Yeah, maybe I missed that, but I've like I had added some previously, and then preparing for this episode, I went in and was like kind of trying to play around a little bit more,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Is it? Can I not?" So if you can,
You can for
tell
books.
us.
I have
Yeah.
no idea with TV.
Mm.
um.
Maybe they need to work on that.
Yeah. No, I think that it could definitely be improved. And they have a club feature. They also have that for books. Honestly, the clubs I felt like were kind of hard to search. Like I was kept trying to search How to Get to Heaven from Belfast, which
Mm.
is like a brand new TV show. So maybe it's
Yeah.
just not on people's lists. But then I was trying to search Dairy Girls, and I like no lists were coming up.
That's
And
crazy.
so
That's gotta be right.
yes,
Like,
exactly. So I don't know if just it's not very searchable. I don't know if it just needs work
Yeah, I feel like I can't remember when I've joined book clubs in the past if I was searching specific books and then they
or a
would pop
genre
up,
or something.
or if it was like, yeah, I'm searching the type of book club,
Yeah.
and then those options come, and then they're like, okay, they're reading this. But you would think that like,
Hmm.
oh, I want to know if there's any clubs
That
watching
have
this or
yes, because then
whatever.
you would assume that it's like there's a theme, right? So you're
yeah.
gonna get similar things
Hmm.
as to what you're searching for.
Yeah.
So Letterboxd, uh, is a movie tracking app. A lot older than I think most of these types of apps, maybe not Goodreads.
I don't think. Yeah, I think Goodreads is ancient.
But it was founded in 2011. And like most of these most of these other than Fable, you can rate films. You can keep track of the ones you've seen in the past, when you've seen them. I believe you can also do rewatches. You can make lists of films, kind of like the club function. Uh, Showcase your favorites. You can tag different films you've seen by using different keywords and interact with other users. So I feel like it is pretty robust for what it's supposed to be doing. I feel like it works pretty well. Go ahead.
I'm a newer user to Letterboxd,
Mhm.
and there are definitely times when I don't understand where I'm supposed to go.
Yes, I feel like and maybe it's different in the app versus the desktop.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the app, I feel like I'm going in a circle, or
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, so I got there for the last movie. How do I get there for this movie?
Yeah.
I also, like, to be completely transparent, haven't used it as consistently as I would like. But also, like, you learn how to use things better as you use the things. So maybe it would be better if
Yeah.
we used it more. And I think probably like a lot of these tracking apps, especially the media ones, the user base for Letterbox swelled during COVID, which I think makes a lot of sense. You're doing a
Yeah.
lot more individual consumption of things.
Mhm.
The user count rose from 1.8 million in 2020 to 3 million in 2021 and is 17 million by the end of 2024.
Whoa.
So I can only
Whoa.
imagine how much more that has grown since then. And the first time I personally was exposed to Letterboxd was around the 2023 Barbie release. I remember
Mhm.
seeing Greta Gerwig specifically had a list, and it was like all of the influences, basically like curriculum to prep if you really want to be a movie nerd about Barbie. And then I think there were a bunch of other lists around Barbie and
Yeah.
Barbenheimer at the time.
Wow.
But that was really the first time I ever was like, "What's a letterbox and who's making a list and why?" Um, Unfortunately, you're not able to track TV series on the app yet. They have been advertising that this is coming since March of 2024,
Hmm.
so hopefully
Oh.
it will come at some point, and maybe that just means there weren't like they want it to be good. They want you to
Yeah.
be able to rate things.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that will be down to the episode, down to the season, to the series, like how incremental of television they're gonna get with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see that happen if it ever does.
Since I have that tracking bug, I'd almost want it down to like the episode.
Yes, yes. I think for television that makes sense.
Well, I have to admit that though I am like I have been aware because of the cultural zeitgeist
Hmm.
of Letterboxd and Fable. I have not used either of those myself. I use Storygraph lightly
Hmm.
because I
They forced you to.
because I
We converted another.
it's true, yeah. They
Our
got me.
gospel is storycraft. We proselytize to the masses.
They were like, "You want to be a part of our book club? You have to get on Storygraph." So that's really the only one of those that I have right now. But what I am really have a long and storied history with, guilty of using, is the personal habit trackers. And now this isn't exactly media, but I feel like the conversation would be missing something if I didn't bring up the massive health market of it all, because
Yeah.
I feel like the tracking craze, that the tracking bug, as Larson's coined it, that exists for so many people, is what drives a lot of people to use health trackers or
Yeah.
personal habit
Well,
trackers.
and I feel like that's really where it started too. Like you
Yeah.
said,
Yes.
with the weight tracking, with the pedometers, like that is where a lot of this like personal tracking
Hmm.
started. We got the fun stuff later, but this is
For sure. So to full circle it, I thought I might start out by mentioning a quirky, silly story, which is that long ago, back in like 2017, 2018, I was a prolific Fitbit user.
Hmm.
A
Fitbit.
Fitbit. I know, not even Apple Watch.
The
um,
Fitbit was the OG.
that's
Fitbit was
right.
out for
But
years before
Yeah.
the Apple Watch.
2017 Fitbit?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
Like
something
maybe
late.
behind the times.
Yeah.
I mean, they still existed.
Yeah. Oh, I think they still exist now.
Well, to be fair, Okay, the Apple Watch was released in 2015. The Apple
Okay.
Watch was released in 2015. Fitbit had been out for a minute before then.
Yeah.
I had started using a Fitbit in college
Uh-huh.
because I pre-college had never worked out. I
Mhm.
was not a sporty kid. I hadn't worked out, and when I got to college, I really wanted to, new me, right? New town, new school, new me. And it was an identity thing. And so tied to that identity then, as I think often is, was the tracking. Like
Mhm.
if I can track and prove that I have worked out, then I am now a person who works out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which I think is similar with like if you're wanting to performatively like engage in culture and media. I am a person who reads this type of books. I am a
Mhm.
person who watches this type of movies. But so the point is that I got on Fitbit by maybe 2017 or 2018. I had been using it really like prolifically for a couple years. I used Fitbit to track my water, my steps, my workouts, my calories. And I used it so much that they reached out to me. Yeah. And they offered to make me a beta tester for new Fitbit for new Fitbit
Wow.
updates. Yeah. Which I accepted because I was like,
Hell
why
yeah,
not?
brother. Yeah.
Yeah, how fucking cool is that? So I had to do this whole special verification process,
Wow.
give them extra data, I'm
She's an
sure.
influencer.
Yeah.
I had like the back end like Fitbit beta tester login, and it would send me like you're gonna beta test. The one that I really remember distinctly is they wanted to add a mental health feature for
Uh-huh.
logging how you were feeling,
Yeah.
right? And so I got early access to that. So they wanted to test the user experience. So I had to share my kind of personal story there. I had to come clean. Um, my journey with that did kind of starkly end when I realized that I would be much more free if I didn't know some of those
Yeah.
numbers, but that's something that I'm sure we can talk about when we analyze. For now, though Fitbit started it all, and though I had a personal experience, I am just one of many, and so is Fitbit.
Mhm.
Obviously, we know Apple Fitness. Apple Fitness didn't launch until December 2020,
Wow.
even though obviously, like the Apple Watch was out sooner. And what's crazy is that even though it launched only in 2020, Apple Fitness, Apple's like fitness program and
Yeah.
tracker, where you close your rings every day,
Yeah.
right? Has 540 million total app users as
Wow.
of 2025.
That didn't exist until 2020?
Yeah.
I swear I remember closing my rings in
But the
2019.
like so you could close your rings on your watch, but the interface then on your phone where you could take
Oh,
classes,
okay, yeah.
share stats.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
the more like community-based interface is something they introduced later. Another one that I wanted to bring up is Strava because this
Mhm.
is the one that I feel like I see all over my social media.
Yeah.
Everyone want to share their little running maps
Yes.
from Strava.
Everyone making very creative running maps.
Yes. As of uh 2026, Strava has over 180 million users across 185 countries. But what I found kind of more interesting than that is the growth rate, and
Mhm.
specifically the growth rate of clubs.
Yeah.
So, like some of the applications that we've already mentioned, Strava has a club feature, and you can make clubs for a whole slew of different sports.
Mhm.
Uh, that club feature has burst in the years post COVID. Strava now hosts over 1 million
Oh my
clubs.
gosh.
hmm
Whoa.
With,
That
y-
seems ridiculous.
isn't that
Yeah.
crazy? With running clubs having grown 3.5 times this year, and hiking clubs even faster.
Wow.
Club organized events, so like events that the clubs then organized,
Mhm.
rose by 1.5 times. So it wasn't even just that there was online communities, it was that via the growth rates, there was actual in-person events and gatherings happen, which I feel like just shows you like how the tracking is evolving to have a community aspect,
Mhm.
which is really interesting. Um I also wanted to mention a few apps that I know will kind of Spotify your workouts for you. I mean, I think Apple has that feature, but I know that Pinnacle and Kaya, which are both climbing fitness apps,
Mhm.
They will give you both daily and yearly progress reports and have integrated social interfaces just like Strava. So that's the norm.
Yeah.
Share your
Yeah.
workout.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's free advertising for them, right? I think
Yeah.
that's the smartest thing that Spotify ever did was have the Wrapped.
Yeah.
That's so much free FaceTime at least one point of the year, every
Yeah.
year that people are sharing your brand.
Does Letterbox have a Wrapped?
That's a good question. Let me look at my.
Because I know Storygraph does, and Fable does like the monthly wraps, and then they do a yearly one as well. I'm not sure if Pagebound has been around to the public for a full year, so I don't know what that
Yeah.
looks like. Um, but yeah, I feel like the wrap feature is kind of like a if we're going to be a social tracking app, then
I want to
yeah,
share. And also,
Yeah.
like, if I log my progress over a whole year, like, I
y-
want to know.
Yeah, and Letterbox does have a year in review thing released in early
Nice.
January. So,
Yeah. Though I will say that when it comes, I feel like specifically, but maybe this applies elsewhere, but specifically to the health market tracking apps, definitely a lot of users have reported that the constant stream of biometric data in particular, that comes from like wearables does
hmm
spark anxiety and overwhelm, which is exactly why I like eventually took my Fitbit off.
yeah,
Because it's just at some point it's too many numbers.
Yeah, well, I don't have an aura ring, but I know that it tells you when you wake up, like, how good your sleep score is, right? And it's like, by getting that score, is that them informing how your day is going to go? Versus if you didn't even look at that score, would you have a different version of your day? Like, is that dictating your feeling,
Yeah.
or is that giving you information?
yeah. I
Yeah.
think it probably depends on who you are and
Yeah.
what you're using. I do have an Aura ring, and for one, I don't have it like you have to log in or you have to open up the app to like see that. It
hmm
doesn't just like you wake up
Tell
and
you.
like here you go. So if you didn't want to see it in the morning, you don't have to.
Yeah, that's good.
um but also like I haven't had the ring for very long, but I have noticed where like oh, I'm feeling really run down like what's going on? And then I will open up my app and it'll be like, "You're feeling like shit right now. Take it easy." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks for validating that."
I am feeling like shit. You're right.
No, that's so fair. Like the data it can be affirming,
hmm
definitely. I will take it a slightly more general just to kind of give a couple more examples of these tracking apps, but there's also apps that are literally just to track whatever you want. And those are the personal kind of habit trackers.
hmm
The biggest one, I think, probably that many people know of, at least if you own an iPhone, is Streaks. Uh, on
Mhm.
Streaks, you can set up a streak for any habit. Do
Oh, do you have a
you
streaks?
have a
I
streak going right
I
now?
do have well, you talk about the app streaks?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. I'm not always great at updating this one,
Yeah.
but I do put some of my habits in there that I'm like, you gotta do this
Yeah.
Right.
for your physical health, for your mental health. You need to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do love that it's so adaptable that you can kind of put in
You can put in whatever you
Whatever.
whatever
want.
you want,
Yeah.
but it still has that kind of gamifying aspect of like, oh, I want to keep my streak, right? I will say with streaks, so streaks is a very basic standout feature is just you can build and maintain habit streaks, gives you that competitive challenge aspect where you want to keep the streak going.
hmm
um, there is, and this is a trend in tracking apps that I feel like is worth pointing out. There is a cost if you want all access. If you
Hmm.
hmm
want all access, it's $5.99 for the universal app. Um,
Which doesn't seem like much, but if every single app you're using, you're also paying
But
5.99
do you
for.
pay
for
the
streaks, it's a one-time purchase.
okay,
Oh,
It's
that's
not a
nice.
subscription.
Okay.
got it,
I
got
love
it.
an app that does that.
Yeah.
That used to be so much more common than it
Yeah.
is in the subscription world that we live in today.
Yeah.
Okay, so you pay $6 for it the one time, and then you got the app. There was a couple other ones that I wasn't as familiar with, but that came up. So Habitica, you can
Mm.
actually turn building habits into a game, an RPG style game.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah. free for most features. You can get bonus items for $5 a month. That gives you like the classic ability to buy gems, et cetera, et cetera. So if you really love um Animal Crossing, or like
Yeah.
Yeah.
that might be your ticket, right? Like it's a
Well,
full
you said
gamify.
gems and it made me think Webkins, so
I was
Um,
having such a hard time in that moment thinking of any game.
one that I just
Yeah.
thought of when you were mentioning that is just tracking your walking,
Mm.
but it's called Fantasy Hike,
Ooh.
Oh.
and it tracks your journey from the Shire
Uh-huh,
to
uh-huh.
Mordor.
I've seen many a TikTok about this concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it now, but that just drove up a memory for me of I did hear about an app where it's a habit app and you have to open up the app and log your habit, or else a cute little web creature, like a digital pet, dies,
Die.
starts
Yeah.
to die. Like it
Oh,
gets sad and lonely.
I've also seen ones where it's like you're growing things as you're tracking whatever
I
it
like that
is.
better.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, don't give me the Tamagotchi psychology treatment. But that yeah, so that was just a quick look at some of the types of self-tracking apps that are hot on the market, but maybe we
Yeah.
should talk about why people are drawn to these apps in the first place.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that we've already talked about the streakification of a lot
Yeah.
of these things. I think that that just scratches a particular little spot in our brains. I
Yeah.
remember, like, I don't Snapchat these days,
Oh
but
my
a
gosh,
Snapchat
Snapchat
streak,
streaks.
man. Oh, that was,
That was powerful.
yeah, that was
Had a
powerful.
chokehold on people.
Yes, absolutely. I remember my my little sister, we were going camping where we didn't have any cell service. She had to maintain a Snapchat streak with her foreign exchange like hosted partner. And she gave her login information to another friend so they can
Just so they
maintain the
could do it.
Snapchat streak with each
Wow.
other,
Yeah.
which kind of feels like it's like false honor.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. You know what? I have a story, a similar streak story, just to really drive home the point about how far people will go to keep their streaks. I have a wonderful, lovely friend, shout out Gia, who had a very impressive Duolingo streak.
Mm,
And then one day she lost it. We're talking hundreds of days. She lost it. She couldn't accept it.
yeah.
So she tweeted at Duolingo to let them know, to say, "Give me my streak back. I'm so
Wow.
sorry. It'll never happen again." And you know what? It worked.
Whoa.
Wow.
Duolingo
That
responded.
that is amazing.
Wow.
Do we know what day she's on now?
I don't. I wish I did. I'll have to ask her right after this. But what's crazy is that she was like, "But now I've burned that. I've burned
Yeah.
that use. Like
My
I
get out of jail free card.
I don't get another second chance."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, I do miss the days of Twitter where like that was a thing where you would just like at a brand and the brand would respond. I don't think that's happening on X these days. I think that's a
Well, I
sad
think I
place.
think people from Twitter have moved to Thread.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
I've never been on a thread. This
I
has
got
been a social
I
media
got sucked in.
app.
I have downloaded and deleted threads about
Yeah.
3 times now.
Yeah.
I did want to say that I saw that Psychology Today had done a little breakdown of the science behind tracking. And one of the things that they mentioned is something that I think we're literally talking about right now with streaks, which is of 4 reasons that they gave why people really love tracking.
Mhm.
One of them was habit loops and reward pathways.
Mm.
Yeah.
Dopamine in our brain loves a streak. Basically, every time you get to check something off, it's like a
Mhm.
tiny reward, right?
Yeah.
And it activates the dopamine in the brain. Apps like Duolingo, things like closing your Apple rings or finishing a book challenge, or even just like checking off that you read another book and
Yeah.
getting
Mhm.
to like add another one to your done pile. That provides both a cue,
Mhm.
something visual in the app, and the reward, which is the checking off. So it's
Yeah.
just a perfect dopamine formula.
Yeah, I mean it goes back to the days of getting little gold stars.
Yes.
We were all little gold star bitches.
What do you mean? I've never been a teacher's pet.
Wait, do we all just love tracking because we have ADHD and we're
I think that could be part of it,
We're
but I mean,
gifted.
non-gifted, non-potentially government program kids who are gate children or whatever, um, other people that don't have the same mental afflictions as us also like a tracking app. So I don't think it's just
You're
the
right.
crippling ADHD.
I think for me, there's a combination of like this self betterment, like competitiveness.
Mhm.
Mm.
I'm no longer doing competitive sports, so I gotta see how many reading challenges I can hit in a year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that makes perfect sense. Like something's got to scratch that itch, especially if you grow up. I feel like we in our generation, because I will say that from everything that I've seen, the users who are really driving this trend is millennials and Gen Z.
Yes. Half of Letterbox users are under the age of 35. So I feel like that's a huge trend to the youth, this is what I was gonna say,
Yeah,
to younger people.
fits the millennial Gen Z.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I also think part of that is your um comfortability with the internet, with tracking apps, with putting your data out there,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff as well. We know the government already knows everything about us.
Yeah.
So that segment of users. The largest age group is 16 to 24. So it's
Wow.
people that are pre-adulthood, right at the beginning of adulthood that are using this.
Very young.
Yeah.
That's interesting because it kind of reminds me of another one of the four reasons that psychology today gave, which was identity and narrative,
Hmm.
wanting to use tracking devices because they give you evidence of who you are becoming,
Yeah.
right? And that makes so much sense if we're seeing a lot of the users of these apps being people who are in very formative years,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Kind of
Yeah. Does that make it scarier?
I guess, and also like at the same time, no, because it's not all the
Yeah.
users.
Yeah.
It's just driving the growth. But
Yeah.
behavioral science basically suggests that habits are more likely to endure when they're framed as a part of our identity rather than isolated actions. So
Yeah.
instead of I want to read, I am
I'm a
someone who
reader.
reads. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a reader.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like if anyone is good at crafting a niche hyper sense of identity is like Gen Z,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm a matcha blueberry,
Yes.
spring summer color palette, cool toned,
Yes. I'm a Visco
Pilates
girl,
reader
which I feel like was one
girl.
of the very beginnings of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the
Oh, I
aesthetics are
I was in Visco in high school.
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked the Visco girls photos, but I wasn't one myself because
Yeah.
I didn't have the
I
talent.
think I still have Visco downloaded on my phone.
Yeah, but all those aesthetics, like if you really think
Uh-huh.
about it, they go right along with that like search for identity and narrative. And if you have data to back up that sense of identity, that's going to be a strong behavioral reinforcer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other Psychology Today points was reducing the cognitive load. And I think that that is really interesting. And I think that I should use them more in that capacity. I think that, like, the ADHD of it all,
Yeah.
you have a higher cognitive load than others.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does, like they say, like, if you are thinking about something, just write it down. And like that might actually help you remember, but it's like also you're just offloading it off of your rolling to-do list.
Yeah.
And I constantly will be like, oh yeah, I should watch that movie. I'm listening to a
Mhm.
podcast and they mentioned this movie, this book, this whatever. And you're like, I have to remember to write this. I have to remember. No, just put it in there right now. And
Yeah.
then now you know it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely like habit trackers can be that extra executive functioning tool and
Yeah.
even reminds me of like when Larson said just a little bit ago that she's got like 700 books on
Yeah.
her list, but it's because she's crafted her own personal database so that she doesn't have
Yeah.
to worry about ever forgetting a book
Yes.
that she wants to read.
Yeah. And I think that's where each person is different with
Hmm.
what they like to track and how they use them because to some people, having that database, that's overwhelming and
Hmm.
that causes more anxiety. And then for some people, it takes off the mental load.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. I will say, since we were talking a bit about the young people of it all,
Hmm.
that I think that there's a big relation between the boom in these media tracking apps, specifically the book and movie ones, with social media.
Yes.
And obviously, we know that we can't have the kind of tracking app phenomenon that we have without the internet. But specifically, I feel like social media has been propelling in several different ways, kind of making solo hobbies, traditionally solo hobbies, into more social activities. And one of
Mhm.
those things is review culture.
Yeah. Reviews are, I feel like, an interesting thing. I think that the professional reviewer on TikTok is an interesting thing that is happening too, where it's like this person, I mean, this is kind of what we're doing a little bit, but like they are gonna give their taste of
Yeah.
whatever they think that you should read. Sometimes they haven't read the books themselves; they're just like curating lists, which I think is a function as
Yeah.
well. But the review culture to me, I think it's a little bit more democratic than like you see reading the critique in the Sunday paper. But also I don't think everybody needs to review everything.
Well, I think that's where there's kind of that fine line between personal tracking app
Yeah.
and social apps.
Hmm.
There's a difference between like personal tracking reviews and then social media tracking reviews. I personally love reviewing books. And like there are a few books that I don't review. Like I'm not likely to post a public review
Yeah.
for a memoir.
Hmm.
Um I'll privately review it on my own spreadsheet. Uh but I think that data is important.
Hmm.
And we could go deep into the weeds on this topic, but like
And maybe we
how
will in another episode.
how books or movies are pushed to people,
Hmm.
you're not necessarily getting uh an average person's take on it before it
Yeah.
gets to you. So I think having the general public review things is really important. Now you do end up getting like some authors get review spammed or like
Yeah, I actually have that in our notes here, the review bombing. Yeah.
yeah. So it's definitely not a perfect system, but I think that in my mind it's like voting.
Yeah. No, it
Yeah.
actually, one of the things that I saw was that a lot of people were saying on the positive side of review culture, allowing what was traditionally only done by a film critic or
Hmm.
a book critic, something very stuffy, something very elitist, to now be a task given to the general public, right?
Hmm.
Not only maybe does encourage deeper engagement, but also democratizes the ability for people to give feedback or input on a piece of media beyond traditional critics. And obviously, like, that's the positive side. There is a negative side. It's grain of salt. You have to use the app how is going to work best for you. But clearly, some people do really like getting to hear takes from everyday people.
Yeah.
But what about the negatives, Kaylin?
The negatives of reviews.
Yeah.
Um
What happens when people are little shits about it?
yeah, I feel the culture of review bombing
Mm.
specifically is a really detrimental thing that the internet has brought. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say detrimental in so many cases, but in
Yeah.
other cases positive, like how Goodreads made it not possible to review Hillbilly Elegy anymore because so many people were review bombing it.
And that we do support.
Yeah, yeah. Hillbilly Elegy, man. I don't know if you're gonna read that book or watch that movie. I think you should go somewhere else. You should not be listening to this podcast, or maybe you should listen more. I don't know. Um, but kind of, if you don't know what review bombing is, it is when there are a large number of reviews in response to an action of the media's creator or distributor that are not directly related to the media itself. So if there's some sort of like political or cultural issue, perceived or actual, um then these the like public backlash is filtered through reviewing their works, and it doesn't actually have to do with the work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I think that it greatly skews what the reviews look like for some books. And unfairly in some instances, and I think fairly fairly in
Yeah.
some instances, it's kind of a slippery slope of the review culture in itself.
Yeah, and sometimes this can get, I feel like, really ridiculous. Like for instance, this last year, um up until the Night of the Seven Kingdoms came out,
Mm,
Breaking Bad had the highest rated on IMDb
hmm.
episode, Ozymandias, of all time. It was just held the record at that
Yeah.
moment. Then Night of the Seven Kingdoms came out and one of their episodes tied the Breaking Bad episode. Breaking Bad fans
Oh no.
immediately began review bombing the Night of the Seven Kingdoms episode until it was below and broke the tie. And then Night of the Seven Kingdoms fans retaliated and begun review bombing Ozymandias until they both lost the number that they had
Yeah.
previously achieved. It's just like, at what point, if are we doing this so much that we no longer even have an accurate, like,
Yeah, it's I think that that's a really interesting concept, and I think
yeah,
that I would be interested to read a paper on that. Like that the social things that have to like evolved in a certain way for that to be like a part of our culture. But yeah, you're so far removed from the actual feelings of that episode, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And in that way, sometimes review culture is exactly like democracy because you're just voted without
Oh
even
god.
really thinking.
Do you mean uninformed people could also leave reviews?
Hmm. Yeah, and that's why sometimes maybe just doing it for yourself is better. But who can say? I,
Yeah.
I will say that um so much of social media these days, our Insta, our TikToks, they
Mhm.
are algorithm based.
Yes.
And that's one thing that I feel like a lot of the tracking apps that are for specific medias don't do as much. They don't throw an algorithm in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gen Z and millennials, I think, tend to prefer to engage with content that feels rooted in digital community or real people when given the option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that I would rather personally get a recommendation from a community or
Yeah.
a club on Fable or Storygraph than just have something pop up in my algorithm. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's almost meaningless at that point.
Yeah. Well, and I know that there's an issue with who gets their books published these days.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you have to have an existing social media, podcast, some sort of following for the opportunity to arise. And that already is skewing who's able to write a book and who's able to who gets that FaceTime in the algorithm, right? So not necessarily a media tracking thing, but it is interesting how
Well, and reviews can combat that
yeah,
basically. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
You know, in today's world, there is a lot of like at least indie publishing and whatever,
Hmm.
and reviews can help that industry, that particular book, that author
Yeah,
gain traction. But that, like you said before, that's also a negative. Like you
yeah,
can prevent someone from gaining traction.
Have we
yeah.
once again talked ourselves to a place of it requires nuance?
Yeah, I think unfortunately nuance is a thing that we have to deal
Oh
with.
man. And since we're talking about something that requires nuance, the pros and cons of it all, I feel like one thing we do have to kind of bring it back to that we mentioned early on is how sticky it can feel when we databaseify things,
Hmm.
when we bring the data into it all. Are these apps kind of putting US rah rah capitalism values onto our hobbies?
Yeah, and do I now
Yeah.
have to grind in all of my hobbies to meet my goals?
Yeah, I think it's so easy to fall into that. And like, one,
Hmm.
because we're already conditioned to have the mindset of finished products. Like, what
Yeah,
am I trying to say?
Like perfectionism or
Well,
like,
that, but no, like literally doing work and having like,
like something to show for it.
but yeah, we live in a society where like our production value
Mm,
is the part of us that's like valued. So
Yes.
hmm.
it's so easy to take that on personally and in your everyday life with your fun little hobbies be like, I need to produce.
Right.
Yeah. There is definitely a push to monetize your hobbies.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, like, you start getting into crochet, and then
Mhm.
people are like, I think you should start selling your crochet or your crochet pattern or
You have a
Yeah.
whatever.
book club, so you think I'll make a podcast.
Well,
Exactly.
it's framed as like including more hobbies in your life and like
Uh-huh.
stepping away from capitalism, but then you just end up turning it into capitalism.
Yes. Yeah. And you're grinding. You're grinding a little bit
Yeah.
harder. And
Yeah.
I
And it
think
might
even if you're not getting monetary supplement from your story graph or your letterbox, it's the same thing. You're still grinding to get that next movie. You're grinding to get that next
yeah.
review for that book.
Yeah. But like I said, I think that I'm like I'm in. Like I don't know what happened to get me to this point, but I am a full-fledged cult member. I'm the Scientologist who is, on the ship and I am trying to get people to join
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
for reading
giving
tracking, to be clear.
it's giving you something that you need. And I mean, like, that's still valid. Like, even after all the points we've brought up, like at the end of the day, these kinds of apps, they can expand your worldviews.
Mhm,
They can give you an organized way to gain exposure to new things.
mhm.
Hmm.
They can challenge you and push you to look at new media that you wouldn't have otherwise bothered
Yeah.
looking at.
They can also expose a top secret location for a military operation to an entire social running app.
They can do anything.
Yeah.
Anything you put your mind to.
And I think, like I said earlier, it's really what you individually want to get out of it.
Yeah.
Because, like with the whole streaks, I personally have no attachment to maintaining a streak of how many days I track or how many
Yeah.
days I read in this instance. If I lose my 100 days, it's okay. I know I'm still reading. I don't
Yeah.
have that issue. But I know some people that's what they want.
Hmm.
So it's kind of fun how like even these very small, very particular tracking apps, you can get what you want out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Take
absolutely.
what you want, leave what you don't, and don't overwhelm yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last thing that Psychology Today brought up on
Hmm.
their list of why we cling to tracking is simply put that tracking a behavior makes it more likely to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to make a change, if you want to read more,
Hmm.
actually statistically picking a book,
Yeah.
saying you're going to read it, tracking either what you're reading or how often you're reading, however it works for you, tracking it somehow
Mhm.
is going to make it more likely that you're going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it just informs how you're spending your time, how you're spending your money. Like,
Mhm.
if you're not tracking your budget, then you don't know where your money is going. If you're
Yeah.
not tracking what you're reading and what you're watching, then you don't know where your time is going.
Yeah. It's mindful consumption.
Yeah. And then the flip of that is you're over consuming, you're buying a bunch of new books or you're buying a bunch of new things,
Mhm.
and you're putting all this pressure on yourself to consume, 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 consume.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of buying books or,
Hmm.
trying to consume more and then back to like databases,
Yeah.
there are apps and databases that kind of go hand in hand with these
Yeah.
tracking, at least for reading.
Hmm.
But like you have Libby, you have
Yeah.
the an app for the library where you can get audiobooks, you can get ebooks. And while they don't link directly
Hmm.
to a tracking, like they really go hand in
Yeah.
hand.
Well, and Libby automatically tags a book that you've read.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use other lists. So if you
Mm-hmm.
have
You can
your
create
TBR
yeah.
on there, yeah, which might be a little bit harder to manage because things come and go on the library,
Yeah.
but there are tracking functions. They're just not nearly as robust or as social as some of these other ones we've talked about.
Mm-hmm. And what you were saying about like creating a habit, I remember when I was a junior in high school, I somehow heard that Beyonce said that you need 21
Oh,
days to create a habit. And so I decided to go vegan for 21 days. That habit did not
she's not
work.
vegan.
No, she's not.
So that didn't work, but I will always put Beyonce and habit tracking in the same little brain folder.
Yeah. You know
I
what?
thought for some reason, which doesn't make nearly as much sense as what you said, but the like everybody has the same 24 hours in the day as Beyonce, and it's like, no, we don't.
No, we
She
don't.
has a nanny, she has a chef, she has a chauffeur, she has a personal trainer, she
She has
has
a bodyguard.
she sure does. But it's like, no, we don't. No, you don't. None of us do.
No. Maybe that's why Beyonce can make a habit in 21
Yeah.
days.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's 'cause that's the only thing she's focusing on.
But you know what? We might not have as many hours as Beyonce. We might not have a personal assistant,
Mhm.
but we have the apps.
I have Letterboxd.
I have many, many apps.
No, but I mean, I think to just tie it up with a positive.
Mhm.
I liked when Larson said mindful consumption
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's lots of ways that you can consume mindlessly, and
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
you want, there'll be an app for that. But when it comes to the rise
It's
in
called TikTok.
Amen. But when it comes to the rise in media tracking apps, I think that if you keep it to an intention
Yeah.
of mindful consumption, that you're doing okay. You're doing a good
Mhm.
job. Because guess what? We're all gonna be consuming.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, that's why we started this podcast, was to more intentionally and mindfully consume and talk about the things that we're consuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why we want you to be here with us.
Honestly, like, you know what you should track? How many Read the Room episodes you listen
What? You should
to.
also like and review and give us 5 stars anywhere
Review
you can.
culture. Oh man.
So on that note, thank you so much for listening.
We hope you'll keep reading the room with us.
So keep checking back for more episodes every Monday and Thursday that dive into the spaces where literature, media, and culture meet.
Please reach out to us at readtheroom@gmail.com for feedback and topic suggestions.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at readtheroom_culture club for the most up-to-date podcast information.
If you enjoy our podcast, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen.
Drop a comment wherever you are about what your favorite media tracking app is, or your least favorite, and why it's your least favorite.
Are you in the cult with Larson?
Join my cult.
Yeah, join Larson's cult. I'm not sure who the leader is, but
I don't know either.
and remember to take up space in whatever room you're in or whatever tracking app you're on. Bye.
Bye.